Apex Online Racing is sponsored by Elgato, who created this lovely stream deck. For more information about the stream deck, the link is in the description below.
Good evening everyone, and welcome along to round 6 of the AOR Hype Season 19 PC F1 League. We are finally back after a week break with some much needed F1 action, and what better track to get the adrenaline pumping than the Circuit of the Americas, of course, for the US Grand Prix. Debuting in 2012, COTA is one of the more recent tracks added to the Formula 1 calendar, but it's had its fair share of moments written in the history books and is ranked with high regard, more so than other new additions introduced in the past decade, and there's very good reason for that. The track itself takes elements from other circuits, for example the S-Curve at Suzuka and Turkey's classic Turn 8, and adds a sprinkle of American track design to conjure up the 5.51km circuit we race on today, fit with 20 turns, 2 DRS zones, and more bumps and inclines than a Mario Kart track, giving the drivers challenges in every single corner. Sounds daunting, right? Because it is, and also the track temperature means the tyres also struggle a lot, so the drivers have a lot to look forward to. Or maybe not, maybe they'll fall under the pressure of this circuit. It is very demanding, and we'll look forward to see what the drivers can do. Thankfully, these drivers are quite competent out there, so, and due to the circumstances we found ourselves in, you would imagine that they will probably be spending a bit more time than usual practicing for these Grand Prix, so hopefully we'll see a lot of fantastic action. The same three compounds we have, of course, softs, mediums and the hards, and the softs are much more quicker on this circuit than most, and we should be seeing some fantastic lap times in the next qualifying session. But yeah, hopefully everyone is staying safe during these troubling times. I know, well, I'm trying my best, and I'm very glad that after the week break, we are finally back for some more AOR action. And, well, of course, yeah, my name is James Costello, and I will be, of course, one of your commentators for tonight's Grand Prix. And joining me once again, Jens, welcome. It's I'm glad to just be commentating back again to restore some order into our lives at the moment, because it's a bit unpredictable, but thankfully we can get going once again, and COTA, I'm really looking forward to this Grand Prix.
Yeah, you always do. It's, as you mentioned in the intro, a very challenging track with a lot of corners and with the tyres struggling quite a bit somewhere on the track. So the drivers currently out to set their first couple of lap times with just about 15 minutes left. Most of the drivers out setting their banker laps, all of them out on the soft tyres currently, meaning that we could maybe see some rain in the race, or maybe it's just the drivers choosing that tyre since none of them wants to go with the reverse strategy. But currently, most of the drivers out setting their first banker laps. Times we'll see tumble come the end of qualifying.
We should mention we have 16 drivers, as you can clearly see, but we have a few notable names absent. Crow in P2 in the championship is absent, as is Bono and Michael, and I think Kruzix is the other of the four to unfortunately miss out, which gives Speed Boy once again the upper hand even before the race even got underway. Obviously the winner last time out at Italy, making it 2 wins, the only driver to win more than 1 Grand Prix so far, and his form has been lightning quick. Can he take another step closer to the championship? I mean, after this race we'll be halfway through the season, which is quite mad to think. And obviously, as we saw this week, Obviously, the new F1 game 2020 has been unveiled. We knew it was going to happen, but we were waiting on some news, and thankfully that has arrived. Hopefully, for our case, as commentators and just as league racing people associated in general, hopefully 2020 can improve on 2019 and can make a greater experience for not just the drivers but also us as the commentators. Speaking of speed, Barry, there he goes on to provisional pole, 1:30.035. Very quick lap time, but not as quick as we saw last season. Obviously, that was Jarno taking pole in the 29s, but considering that we're not even a third of the way through the session, and we have two drivers, Simon included, that are only 2/10 off Jarno's pole time, I think Jarno's pole time might be beatable.
Yeah, especially with the speed that these drivers have, and some of them maybe have had even more time to practice this year than Jarno had last season. So I think Speed Barry and maybe Simon as well, and hell, maybe even some of the other drivers further down can go on and challenge that 1:29 time we saw last year. Of course, Speed Barry already very close with his first banker at that time. Of course, 12 minutes to go. The drivers are not out there pushing fully yet. They're out there feeling the track. Where can I put it flat out and where can't I? And of course, not necessarily with the lowest of fuel settings. Plus, the track still have to rubber fully in. So if Speed Barry can put in a similar lap to what he did now, I think we'll be able to see a lap time closing in towards the 1:29.
Considering that was his banker lap time and Jarno's eventual pole time was his final attempt, I'm pretty sure it was near enough. And as you mentioned, the track obviously isn't at its quickest, the grip isn't at its optimal. With Speed Barry's form of this season, I wouldn't put it past him. If I was a betting man, I probably would put him to be, maybe even go even quicker, just like a 29.7 or 29.8. This track is very challenging though, so it demands the utmost quality of these drivers, and one little mistake obviously can cost a lap time. Not even just like spinning or whatnot, but also invalid lap times have become a prominent issue for drivers of varying quality. It doesn't matter how quick they are, the track limits are always there to haunt them and potentially we see mistakes time and time again with penalties and whatnot. So I don't think qualifying is a place where you definitely do not want to get any penalty or invalid lap times. Hypers has now joined the session. Hopefully he can get going. Obviously 2 podiums in a row. Oh yeah, he did get a podium in Italy after that dramatic final lap where he was battling Presnader, and Presnader spun on the final corner. We did get news that he did actually get a puncture, so it wasn't just him, lack of concentration or whatnot. It was generally his car just giving up the ghost. And it was an awful time for him to pick up a puncture, and especially he was having a fantastic race up until then, and came home for a measly 7th. So hopefully he'll be looking to improve on that and get back on the podium. And right now he's doing a pretty decent job. 3rd place at the moment, but still 3.5 tenths behind Simon in 2nd. So it's a bit of a gap between the top 2 and everyone else.
Yes, and you mentioned the track limits just a bit before, and we see set 1 that we're currently coming through with Leopard. You can see how easy it is to just jump over those small sausage curbs that are there, since the curb isn't that tall. So it is almost showing you how easy, and just trying to be the snake offering the apple and wanting you to cut that corner. But of course, once all 4 wheels are off, you will get an invalid lap time, and you even risk getting in the race not just a 3-second, but I've also seen 5-second penalties being given in just that first sector. So it is very easy to cut the corners and get penalties, and with a field this close, we've seen it before, one small penalty can cost you a lot of positions come the end of a Grand Prix. and of course in qualifying, when you're out there pushing, a lap time set early in the session might be half a second to a second off what the lap times come later in the session are. So it is very important not to cut any corners anywhere on the lap.
I mean, we've seen races decided by penalties this season. Obviously, I keep going back to Belgium, where Crow got multiple penalties, finished the race first on track, but obviously Speedborough took the win due to his penalties, and that's something we've seen in esports for like a lot as well. It's not uncommon for the top quality of drivers that penalties can decide Grand Prix, and I honestly wouldn't be that surprised if this circuit claims another penalty victim, because this circuit is so challenging just to nail. I mean, you can, and mistakes will happen, just because of the difficulty of this circuit. Even if you make a mistake, like, I don't know, lose a rear end, you could easily get a track limit warning. So the track is very demanding, and at the moment all these drivers seem to be up to the task. 3 of them, however, have not set their lap times yet. One of them being Hype is obviously, he's having lots of connection issues, which is very unfortunate to see. Hopefully they can be resolved, but due to the fact there's only 7 minutes to go in this qualifying session, the chances do look a little bit slimmer than he would obviously imagine. The other drivers, one of them is Camille, also known as CRG Coman. Obviously signed for the CRG esports organisation. He crossed the line, but I think he got his lap time validated, and that's another example. There we go. So it seems that drivers are already falling victim to that. So we're not talking gibberish. Drivers can and will make mistakes on their flying laps, and for Camille's case, he only has 6 minutes to rectify that and get an official lap time on the board, because his pace has been pretty decent this season. I can definitely see him challenging the top 5 in today's Grand Prix. And in the qualifying session, you do not want to start last at this circuit. It's pretty it's a circuit where you can overtake, but track position, as we mentioned, is kind of key, and obviously starting on decent tyres as well will make a difference.
Yes, and currently looking at Alvaro, who's currently coming around after that back straight. Quite interesting to see that Failer actually gave him a bit of help with the slipstream there. So it's looking like the drivers once again are going across each other and giving each other the help that they need to put in top lap times, and not just over teammates. You'd think there would maybe be pressure that would give Alvaro the slipstream, but no, it is also the competitors like Failer in the Haas there giving him the slipstream, but clearly not enough to put him up on pole position. Only enough for 8th place for now, but not too far off. Actually, only 1,000th of a second off of Brownie's time. So he might be able to challenge later in the session.
Yeah, interesting that Fail is actually up there in P3. I mean, hopefully Failure doesn't take this as an insult, but we don't usually see him that far up. And hopefully, due to the week break, he's managed to put a bit more practice in than he would usually have, and hopefully that is genuine pace, and he'll be up there for the Grand Prix, because he does a lot of work as the coordinator, and well, he's been deserving of a decent result. He's only had a few measly 9th, 8th positions, nothing more than that. If he gets a decent point stall, obviously that'll be a big boost for Haas. And if Simon now, I'm pretty sure Simon's actually confirmed to be a Haas driver for this season, as unfortunately we have lost a few drivers due to issues and whatnot. So Simon, I'm pretty sure Simon has been promoted from the reserve and now takes over Gianfranco's seat in the Haas. But I'm not 100% sure on that. Maybe I might double check that. But if that is the case, and Simon now will obviously be classified as a driver, that means his results will obviously be shown on the results screen. which as a reserve you actually can't see, so his results were pretty much pointless up until the fact now that he's now in a drive. So could he potentially be in the championship fight? I mean, we're still a long way off even thinking about champions at the moment, but you know, he's had some very good results. I mean, he's been on the podium for nearly all of his races he's attended so far. Obviously picked up the win in Suzuka. I mean, at the form he's going, he could potentially sneak into that fight. I mean, he's always been up there ever since he started competing in this league, so you never know. But obviously, Speed Barry has a huge advantage over the drivers currently competing in today's Grand Prix. I might be mistaken, but I think Hype is the driver closest to him in the championship that's competing in today's Grand Prix. So obviously with Bono, Michael, and Crow not attending, Speed Barry looks like he's going to take advantage once again. But we've got 2.5 minutes to go this qualifying session, and everyone, well, Speed Barry, Simon, Failer, Infamous, Presnader, and a few more are out for their final runs. Are we going to see that sub 29, or sub 30 I should say, and who's going to be the one to do it?
Yeah, and the drivers starting off their final lap time first will be Sones, followed by Cardinov, and then further down we'll have Infamous behind, and then Simon coming around. So it'll be interesting to see who will be able to get the pole position. Of course, Speed Barry currently out in front, but Simon tailing just a bit behind. Both the drivers will be hoping that they can maybe dip in to the 129s, and Infamous already getting his lap time invalidated, just showing how easy it is to cut in that first sector coming through those S curves. Now looking further ahead at Cardinov, he's coming up to some slow drivers there. Anchor getting nicely out of the way of him. Further ahead we're seeing Sones getting a bit of help from Camille there. Camille down in 16th, currently out on his final out lap to start his final lap. Further back Cardinov, I don't think Cardinov got any help, which is very unfortunate for him. Further back a couple of other drivers getting a bit of help. Speed Barry just starting his lap around now, coming through the first sector. Let's see, will he be able to just drive through there without getting penalties? Let's just jump on board. Looks like he's getting close to the curves, but not cutting, and actually setting purple in the first sector. This looks promising. But now Sones, the first driver to cross the line, coming across for his 6th place. Cardinov coming over now for 3rd place. What about further back? Infamous crossing the line. That's in about lap time. Further back, Matthias starting his lap now. Simon, I think, will be the next driver with the time to cross the line. No, he's going through sector 1 now. Put sector 1 purple as well. It would have been Failer coming across the line. Not enough to improve. Further back, some of the Ferrari drivers starting their lap times. Presnader coming through on the back straight now. Any drivers about to cross the line with lap times?
This will be Speed Barry.
Would be Barry be the next driver? Let's have a look. Yes, he's coming through that triple right-hander. Then the left hand of turn 19. Don't go too wide. Oh, it was close, but it was not invalidated just yet. Then through the final left hand of turn 20, across the line there, and it's a 129.7. And as the time has run out, he is now in provisional pole position, and he did dip in to those 129s. But here comes Simon. What will he be able to do? Coming across the line now. Oh, it's enough to improve, but not to dip down into the 129s. Next driver to cross the line, I think that might be Camille down in 16th. What will he be able to do? Goes quite wide in turn 90, but not enough to get it invalidated. Coming through turn 20 there, going a bit away with the back end, but into 7th place he goes. Then it'll be Matthias coming through the left hand of turn 20 now. Oh, getting a bit of snap coming across the line. And it's 8th place for him. Then it will be Leopard. He has run out of fuel, I think. Photon, invalidated lap time there. Brownie, he's coming through the triple right-hander, invalid lap time. Then we have and again in about lap time. Just showing that multiple of these drivers are struggling with the track limits and just showing how hard it can be. And I think that is all the drivers gone through. Codemasters and Failer retiring. I think they might have gotten in that lap times. The rest of the drivers have pit. But this means that Speedbar has taken pole position with a 129.770. And I believe that might be a smidge quicker than what Jarno was able to do last season.
It is. By 2/10. Bang.
Wow.
And just under 3/10 quicker than Simon. I thought Simon had it potentially, or could even, well, I didn't think it'd be just under 3/10 behind, but Speedbar pulled the rabbit out of the hat once again and takes another pole position. I can't really.
I think so, yeah.
No, he hasn't taken one so far this season.
Really?
He would have taken it in Italy if it wasn't for Leopard.
Oh yeah, this is his
leaping,
first. Oh, yeah.
Right at the death of the wet. So yeah, that's his first pole position. Just a measly 2.5 clear of Simon. But then we haven't mentioned McLaren second row, Presneda ahead of Alvaro. Obviously the reserve driver filling in for Bono, doing his work. Cardov in 5th, Jan Freyler in the second half in 6th. Now we were all Red Bull 4th row with infamous head of Camille. Then it was Matthias and Zones running up the top 10 for what promises to be a really exciting Grand Prix if Speedbar doesn't pull away off into the distance. Because judging off his qualifying lap time and just how quick he is in general, I wouldn't put it past him if he just soared off. But Simon will have other things to say about that, as will Presneda, and who knows what will happen to Alvaro, because, well, we haven't seen his face before, and we don't know, well, we're assuming he's quick, he's in the top tier of AOR, but we haven't seen him in a race, so looking forward to see what he can produce.
Oh no, I'm worried I'm getting kicked now. Oh no. Are you seeing the drivers loaded on your screen?
I'm seeing the grandstand, but with no drivers on the right hand side.
There. Oh wow, right. Some technical gremlins right there. They're not wanting to let up. But as we go for the information lap, Speedbar is leading, of course, from Simon, from Presneda, from Alvaro, from Cardinal, from Failer, from Infamous, Camille, Matthias, Sones, Hypers, Andinator, Anchor, Brownie, Photon, and Leopard. All the drivers outside the top 10 has decided to go with the reverse strategy and started on the medium tyres. Of course, since they're not starting in the top 10, they do not need to start on their qualifying tyres. And clearly, everyone has chosen to go for that reverse strategy and see if they can pull something out of the hat by doing that. Of course, Hypers would be wanting to gain a bit back in the championship. Had a disappointing start with an 8th, then did not start, and then an 18th. But then coming strong back in Japan with the 2nd, and then Italy in 3rd. Let's hope that he can carry on that strong form. He's starting down in 11th place. Of course, he was one of the contenders last season for the championship, but yeah, as I mentioned, hasn't really been up there in this season quite yet. But I'm sure we'll see something from his side on those medium tyres.
My mind casts back to last season in the wet at Suzuka, and not Suzuka, at USA. Yeah. And let's just say Hypers had an awful race. There's nothing, we can't say it better or worse really. Hopefully those gremlins have passed and he's managed to sort his race pace out. Obviously that was in the wet. Looking at the conditions right now, the conditions look pretty bone dry here in Austin, Texas. But yeah, interesting to see what the drivers will do on medium tyres. Interesting to see what the drivers will do on the soft tyres. A lot to look forward to, as the two Ferraris, Photon and Leopard, will round out 15th and 16th at the back of the grid. And then we can get round 6 going for the US Grand Prix. As Bon Jovi once said, we're halfway there. Whose prayers will be answered tonight? We'll find out when the 5 red lights go out and we are underway. Speed Barry, shocking start. What has happened to the Williams driver? Simon clearly into the lead, followed by the 2 McLarens. That's a Red Bull of Infamous diving down the inside into turn 1. Simon clearly out in front.
Andernator's round.
There's been a huge carnage at the back. There's a Ferrari, a Racing Point, and a Toro Rosso out of Andernator, all spun at the back, and their races are pretty much run. But Alvaro open to second position. There's more carnage than I thought. As Infamous and Failer going wheel to wheel. As Hypers has left the session.
Oh no!
Gremlins is still forcing him, even at the race starts. Yeah, the front. Well, Simon clearly out in front. As there's Infamous Speed Bari, after making a horrible start, now starting to try and reel in those positions. He might have had that glitch where some drivers see everyone get away before their 5 red lights go out, and if he got away at the same time, might have got a drive-through penalty as he gets past Jan Failer, as does Camille in the process, but he's going wheel to wheel with the Haasman. Great to see Failer getting involved with all his action, involving his CRG compatriot of Camille, obviously being the more experienced 2 of the drivers in that team, wants to show his place and does. So he's now still in 7th place. Whilst his teammate leads the Grand Prix and by quite a bit of a margin ahead of Alvaro in 2nd, Fresnay in 3rd, and Cardinov now up into P4. But yeah, the main talking point of that was what on earth happened to Speed Bari.
Yeah, Speed Bari, as you mentioned, down in 6th place, and with a bit of a gap up to Infamous, he'll have to try and fight back to not lose everything, as Andernator already now picking up a 3-second time penalty. His race has just gone from bad to worse. First into turn 1 getting spun round, and then already on lap 2 getting himself a 3-second time penalty. But Speed Bari getting hell at the start maybe, and further down carnage between 3 cars, plus of course Hypers getting kicked from the session, so everything going on and just into the first corner, you could say. So that was quite amazing to see already. Let's hope that can carry on, at least that amount of action, as the drivers are coming down the back straight right now. It doesn't look like any of the drivers up ahead in front will challenge each other. There, Infamous getting quite close, but not close enough to challenge. Further down, maybe the fight for the points. No, Anka actually falling quite far back from Brownie. Looking like those medium tyres aren't really able to hold on that well, and Hypers down in 16th, not really able to do much. His race has most likely run its course if he cannot get back into the session quickly.
I think he's done. As DRS is now, he's got wing damage as well.
Oh,
I wonder if that was technical issues or he just left on his own accord. Obviously, it's a bit naughty if he did, but I'll give him the benefit of the doubt that that was a technical issue, because he did have way too many in qualifying, so it wouldn't surprise me. Speaking of wing damage, Photon's in for an unscheduled pit stop onto the hard compound tyres. As you saw on the graphic at the start, how the hards were 2.1 seconds slower than the softs, and even at this stage of the Grand Prix, where the soft is starting to degrade, he definitely isn't in the best shape, and plumb last, near enough 10 seconds behind Hypers and 38 seconds behind the leader. So Photon's race hasn't gone to plan for one of the Ferraris. Leopard, his teammate, has made decent progress at the start, obviously, but last race's pole sitter, as Brownie and Matthias squabble over P9. Brownie on those medium tyres, really making some decent progress. The driver on the mediums who's made the most progress and finds himself in the top 10 as, there's incident. What's happened there? Infamous and Cardinov Presley has slowed sort of significantly. He's a second behind his teammate. I wonder if something happened there, as Infamous now drops behind Speed Bari. Let's get my technical glasses and see if anything's happened damage-wise. Can't see anything on the Racing Points or the McLaren. Can I spot anything on the Red Bull? Difficult to see from this angle. Oh yes! Infamous has got wing damage on the right-hand side, so something's happened to the Red Bull driver to result in that. And judging off how close he was to Cardinov, I wouldn't be surprised if he tangled with the Racing Point.
No, of course, very unfortunate, because that means that he will most likely have to pit, because going through that first sector and also the start of the third sector will be absolutely horrible, missing the whole of his right end plate there. So yeah, as I mentioned, he'll most likely have to pit. Luckily for him, he is on the soft tyres, so it won't be too much out of sync. But still, way too early to pit now. But it wouldn't be the best idea to try and go round. As I say that, he almost goes for the move on Speed Bari there, coming into that third sector. So maybe the damage isn't as much as we thought.
Potentially, he might not even. Oh no, he definitely has damage through the polar opposite of Turkey's turn 8. He has to lift off completely. That's not dirty air. That's his downforce. Just obviously not giving him the downforce he wants due to the lack of an end plate on the right-hand side of his Red Bull. But to be fair, he's doing a decent job as Jan Failer now comes into the pit. This might be a excuse me. This might be a scheduled pit stop. Let's see if he comes in. Yeah, it is. No wing change whatsoever. That's just a tactical pit stop to get himself into some clean air and get away from the carnage that was unfolding around him. That's a pretty wise decision there from Failer to come into the pits, get some clean air, and then pump in some decent lap times. Yes, he's not on the best tyre, but those tyres will make it to the end of the Grand Prix, and considering pretty much everyone around him was battling, fair to say that he's taken the wise approach there. Failer is a wise little head. I'm going to take a stab in the dark and say he's probably the longest serving driver in this tier who's participated in the AOR F1 leagues, and I'm pretty sure that's right. But Brownie and Camille, who the drivers that were just behind Failer before he pitted, Brownie is making some tremendous progress. I don't know what he's eating for breakfast today, but clearly there was something in his Weetabix or Weetos or whatnot, because he's making tremendous progress and getting past soft runner by soft runner, up into 7th position ahead of Camille. And once again, it's one of those drivers you don't often see making these sort of progresses. Unsurprisingly, Infamous darts into the pits. You'd assume he's going to change his wing, and you'd assume he's going to put on another set of hard tyres, just like Failer. There goes the wing. No, it's mediums. Surely it can't.
I don't think they're going to last.
I know we're not amazing. We're not the technical. We're not the Ted Kravitz know-it-all. But 22 laps on mediums is a long stretch, even for someone of Infamous quality.
Might he do a two-stopper? It would be interesting, to say the least.
I mean, regardless, he put himself in a bad situation with the wing damage. So from now on, in his damage limitation, regardless of what he tries to do, whether he tries to get those tyres to the end and risk getting a puncture, or trying the ambitious two-stop strategy and pitting onto another set of mediums or soft, depending on how long they can make this particular set last. Thankfully for him, though, there's multiple drivers around him that that were around him before he pitted that have been battling, and here goes Speed Bari making up ground. He lost at the start. If he's not livid at the moment, I don't know what emotion he should be showing, because I don't know how on earth he managed to stall on the grid that significantly. but he's now finally made his way up ahead of Cardinov and pits instantly, as does Simon and Alvaro. So the pit window is well and truly on. Cardinov in. President interestingly stayed out.
Camille in as well.
So you'd assume that Infamous will be behind these lot by around five-ish seconds because of his wing damage. Where does Simon come out though? Simon's on the soft. Okay. That's definitely a two-stop. There's no finger pointing about anything else. That is, he has to pit again. He has to pit onto a mandatory tyre because the softs aren't that. And I don't think Simon would be someone to just make a mistake like that. So he's doing a two-stop, which gives me an impression that other drivers will do the same.
Yeah, because we see Infamous going in early, put on the mediums. So maybe the hard runners are trying to go the full distance and spare that one pit stop. And then the medium runners are, or the ones that have gone in now to the mediums, they're going on to soft later. Simon has maybe just switched that round and then going on a medium around lap 14.
I mean, potentially. I haven't really delved into the potential of a two-stop strategy. I just thought it would be a plain sailing one-stop, but clearly I haven't been doing my research.
I mean, this is why we're not drivers.
Clearly, as Prisoner now comes into the pits, that puts Brownie into the lead of the Grand Prix, something I don't think he was going to be expecting when he woke up this morning, but here he is. Anchor in second, Leopard third, and we'll assume that Andrea will take over P4. Simon right behind the Toro Rosso, and sensibly, Andrea just lets him go through with relative ease, although Simon did lock up for good measure, but at the end of the day he is now passed and up into P4. Prisoner comes out just ahead of Cardinov, so the undercut worked for Speed Bari, but not for Cardinov. Speed Bari now up into a provisional third place once the medium runners come into the pits. I can now start chasing after Alvaro, but Simon is just pulling away. 3 seconds ahead of Alvaro and looking very good. Take his second Grand Prix win of the season, but still a long way to go in this race. And judging off Speed Bari's pace at the moment, he is nowhere near done with business just yet.
No, of course he is out there now pushing and pushing because he needs to build up a gap so he can have a pit stop over the other guys, or at least be close enough to challenge come the end, since he do have to pit one more time to go on to the medium tyres. But the 4 guys left that hasn't pitted yet at the top, Brownie, Anchor, Leopard and Andinator, are all sitting out there just a bit longer. They'll pit come round or come lap, that would be maybe 18 to 20 maybe, just to make it home on the soft tyres and not risk a puncture. Of course, a puncture on this circuit is quite likely come the final sector, and of course the first sector as well, as we discussed earlier.
Andrea is not looking so good at this current stage. He's going to get swallowed up by the drivers behind him, and there's no way he's going to pit anytime soon. So I expect him to be dropping down the field. Simon's got a lot of clean air now, 4 seconds thereabout, to just carry on pumping in those lap times because he needs to. On the soft tyres, he needs to go as quick as possible because he needs to make a second pit stop. No one else needs to make that second pit stop. They probably would, they probably will, due to the two-stop strategy appearing to be more preferred than the one-stop. But Simon is forcing himself into this two-stop strategy, which is, well, we'll find out if it was a good decision or not in 19 laps time, but at the moment, you know, it's not looking too plain sailing for him. Obviously, with that extra pits, we have seen two-stop strategies work. I do recall former Danny making lots of moves in season 16. I particularly remember his famous incident with Tino. I remember that, and everything else afterwards. We won't mention that because we want our videos monetized. So, but yeah, Simon's got a lot to do. But Alvaro now gets a 3-second time penalty. That's the first of the big guns.
Actually, that's his second. He's on 6 seconds of penalties now.
Wow. Okay, so that's the first thing we've learned from Alvaro, that he does like to pick up penalties. He's a penalty merchant. He reminds me of Robert. Good old Robert back in F4. He was a newcomer, and he instantly made the impression of us as being like Alvaro. Speaking of Alvaro, he's found himself right behind Andernator, as I expected, with Speedbar tagging along with him, so Andernator needs to be cleared by the McLaren ASAP, otherwise the Williams will be right past him. Can he get him to turn 15? It'd be ambitious. Andernator just covers any potential chance of the McLaren getting past there. So his next real opportunity is down the start-finish straight with the DRS down towards turn 1. You can see just how much grip the new Alvaro has compared to Andernator. It can take turn 17 and 18 much more to the inside, hug the inside, and take a lot more speed through there. But onto the start-finish straight. Fresnel is there or thereabout. He's just without DRS range. But his teammate with DRS gets past Andernator nice and easily, and Speedbar follows through. And not just follows through, he could potentially try and sniff at Alvaro, but Alvaro just has to measure him. But Speedbar looked very likely to get past the McLaren. And with no DRS now for Alvaro, I wouldn't be surprised if Speedbar gets past him on the next straight. Whilst Fresnel tucks in behind Andernator, and look, there's Karnov. So Karnov's not done with business just yet. But whilst this battle carries on, they're still losing time. And Simon's now 5 seconds ahead, so he is literally killing those tyres, but he needs to. As now Fresnel gets past Andernator. Let's see what happens though on this straight. Andernator has had something's happened, as he now gets passed by Cardinal, but up ahead, Speedbar gets past Alvaro with that DRS, way too easy for the Williams, and he now is up into a provisional P2. Oh dear, that's Hyper's ghost car.
Lapped by the top runners now, already on lap 11. And further back between Cardinov and Andernator, there were a bit of a touch coming out onto the straight, just touching the rear tyre to the front wing of Cardinov there, but looked like both drivers escaped without any damage, but they lost a small bit of time.
Simon pushing like an absolute madman. He's now caught himself up behind Anchor and a Leopard, and the last thing he wants to do is catch up to them in this section. He needs to be behind Leopard, preferably, and get DRS onto the back straight, because he does not want to lose any time whatsoever stuck behind these two. Thankfully for his case, he has just about got himself within DRS range, but Leopard has DRS as well, so it's very unlikely for him to get past Leopard on this straight. Will Leopard get past Anchor? No, he's too far behind on that particular battle, but Simon needs to clear these two ASAP, and he's approaching them. He will get right close to them in this sector, because the grip on his softs compared to the grip on the two ahead mediums is going to be substantial. It's going to be light years quicker. It's going to be like an F1 versus F2 car. It's absolutely monumental just how much traction and grip Simon's soft tyres have, even though they are aging a little bit. 5 laps, and obviously we've seen from the first pit stop that their lifespan is only around 8 or so laps.
He
no,
comes
never
into
mind.
the pits. Goes into the pits on lap 13. He will... Where will he filter out compared to the other drivers. Let's see as Speedbari goes past, the two McLarens go past, Cardenoff goes past, Simon onto the medium tyres, goes to the end. No surprise there, but where will he come out? He will be down in 13th. Will Stones get past into turn 1? No. Simon stays in front, but he's now down to 13th place. So this means that for him to find any good positions in this Grand Prix, he will have the other top runners need to pit. That would be onto a soft tyre, but looking at the laps that the starting medium runners has gone, it doesn't look likely. I think they might be able to stretch at home the other top runners, and this means that Simon will be down to the tail end of the points.
Just thinking about what could possibly happen to Simon. Again, did he need to take that risk with a two-stop strategy? Did he need? He was comfortably in first, and well, before he pitted, was around 3 or so seconds ahead of the drivers behind. By putting himself onto the two-stop strategy, he has self-inflicted damage to his race, potentially, but he will be the quickest car on track by a country mile for the first few laps. But he will only have, 7 or 6 laps advantage on the drivers who he was battling, in quotation marks, the drivers who were challenging him, rather. And the fact that he's, 12 seconds behind that gaggle of cars, honestly, I just don't, unless these guys battle, and I mean properly, not just sail past the straight like you're on the motorway, like properly side by side through corners. That's the only way I can see Simon salvaging a decent result in today's race. Potentially get onto some point. Maybe get to potentially Andernator, Camille, Infamous potentially, with his aging tyres. But honestly, I think he might have shot himself in the foot with this two-stop strategy. But he knows way more than us, and we are only halfway through this race, Jen. So there's still a lot to be undecided. And to be fair, we haven't really mentioned the top 3. They're in Simon's boat really, because they have to pit, and they'll probably come out around Simon, and they'll have fresh tyres to go to the end. So they're not out of the running for a decent result. But as I say, that Speedbari now is only around 3 seconds behind Anchor. So after having an awful start, dropping down positions like it was out of fashion at the start, Speedbari now unofficially leads this Grand Prix, because from the top 3 pits, he will take back that P1. But luckily for us, he's got Alvaro Presleder and Cardenoff right there with him to keep him occupied. We could have a 4-way battle for the lead of the Grand Prix, potentially 5 if Simon can pull something out of the hat. We'll have to wait and find out what happens, but it's definitely not going to be plain sailing for anyone towards the end of the Grand Prix.
Well, sorry to spoil that fantastic battle there, but we have to remember that Alvaro has just picked himself up another 3-second time penalty, meaning that he will sail down this gaggle of cars once the Grand Prix ends. So if we really need a battle, we both need to have Preschneider and Cardenoff and Infamous past Alvaro before they can battle with Bari. But of course, we don't know if Alvaro is going to be kind to his teammate and let him past. And of course, we don't know if Simon has made a master of a strategy here, or what that looks like, as Anchor has now pit in for his pit stop. He will most likely go on to the soft tyres and go to the end. And this means that Speed Barry is now promoted up into 3rd place, and 3.1 seconds off of Leopard and Brownie, who still needs to pit. They will most likely pit in on this lap or in the next coming laps.
I think Alvaro's kind of bottlenecking his teammates. I mean, he's definitely within DRS range, there's no shadow of doubt, but he just isn't gaining anything, really. He's just lucky that the straights that have DRS can tack him along and get close enough so that he can afford to lose the time he does in the more technical areas of this track, and still get DRS, which is meaning that Presnit's just can't get past him. Hopefully, for Presnit's sake, Alvaro does let him pass to potentially challenge Bari, but Alvaro may not know if, well, on anyone else's penalty situation. So for him, he just wants to, you know, be as high up as possible, and then the penalties will take into account at the end of the Grand Prix. For him, he can see the provisional lead, and he wants to get that provisional lead. But I don't think he will get that provisional lead, because he's not quick enough to take that provisional lead, if that makes sense. Meanwhile, Simon is tucked up in a huge train, consisting of Andernaya, still on those mediums, 16 lap old, Camille behind him, then Failer, then Matthias, then Simon. This is completely and utterly worst case scenario for Simon. If he wanted to make this work, he needed drivers to be separated and to be easily passed. There's no easy pass anywhere for the drivers in front. Maybe for Jan Failer, maybe Jan Failer will be nice to his teammate, but the rest of them will definitely make it much more difficult than Simon would have wanted. But yeah, there's a huge gaggle of cars, and Ander is doing a decent job of keeping them all at bay. But I don't know for how much longer. You can see Simon just, with that DRS and overtake, trying to make that move, but Matthias is just compelling and doesn't want to make that move, but he wants to try to make it stick. You can see he's forcing this too much. You can see how aggressive he's being in these moves, because he knows it's now or never. Matthias hanging on in there, giving it a real go, and he keeps hold of that position. I thought Simon might have got the job done, but no, and that's it. Poor Simon, man, honestly. Obviously, very aggressive maneuvers from the German driver, but he's tried to make this work. Matthias is bottlenecking him so much, and he just can't seem to find a way past. If anything, it's his teammate Failer that's making sure that Matthias isn't able to be passed. But saying
here
that,
he comes.
Down the inside he goes, and that was Danny Rick-esque, and Matthias had to give way. Simon now up into 10th and makes that move stick. Thankfully, for his case, I don't think Jan Failer will battle him whatsoever, and there'll be a clean pass for Simon. But that was 10-ish more corners more than Simon would have wanted to stick behind that Mercedes, and his race goes from promising to definitely not promising to bad to worse to potentially salvageable. We'll have to wait and see. As Speed Barry now gets past Leopard and up into P2 in today's race.
Yes, and here we see Failer. Will he give way? Looks like it, as Simon from a long way back. He's doing those Danny Rick moves with the very late brake and just diving it down the inside. He's now up into 9th place, so he's of course trying to salvage all he can get. Of course, the drivers ahead of him are on slightly Alvaro in provisional 2nd. That will change when penalties come into account, of course. Then Presnitz making it a McLaren 2-3. This is very promising for the team's championship, of course, for now. Then Cardinov, Infamous, and Camille, and then Simon down in 7th place. Simon just trying to salvage all that he can get, and he is only 1.6 seconds off Camille, And then there's a bit of a gap up to Infamous, but Camille won't have any DRS, so that might be plain sailing for Simon come a lap or two down one of the DRS straights.
But speaking of not having DRS, that's a situation Alvaro sees himself in. As I was mentioning, potentially hurting his teammate, because obviously Alvaro is not going to win this race. Even on track. I mean, if he does win on track, he'll get to motor the penalties. President has more of a chance completely. He's got no penalties. Speedbarry has no penalties. Alvaro has way too many. And Alvaro is now dropping further behind Speedbarry. President needs to get past Alvaro, his teammate, to have any chance of winning this Grand Prix. Hopefully, for his sake, the fact that he has DRS and Alvaro doesn't makes it an easy pass for the Slovakian, but it looks like Alvaro's, you know, giving this the right go, just not letting his teammate go, like Failer did to his teammate, as we saw a few laps ago. It looks like Alvaro's, you know, just not being helpful to President whatsoever. As we mentioned before, this is his first Grand Prix of the season. Obviously looking to make an impression, and is doing so by, well, trying to ensure President can't get his overtake done as easily as he might want to. But hopefully, there might be a move for the Slovakian's sake, because Alvaro looks like he's already going defensive down the back straight. As President now gives up trying to overtake him with that DRS, so powerful. Is he going to go down the inside? Alvaro gives him the room, gives him the space, gives him the position. So eventually Alvaro yielded. He wants to stay ahead of Cardinov though, because Cardinov can win this race as well. He wants to make sure for a team's sake that he keeps the racing point at bay to hold him up, so President can get some clean air to try and potentially mount a challenge on Speedbarry up ahead. But the two McLarens are vitally switched, which gives President the door opening to potentially challenging Speedbarry and taking his first victory of the season. For his sake, he's going to want his first podium of the season after being stripped of too many for his liking. Obviously, last race in Italy was a prime example, and also at Silver Serb where he was tapped round by Crow. He's currently in P2 and looking good for that P2 at least. But the fact that he can see Speedbarry right ahead of him gives me the impression that as a racing driver, he wants that P1. Let's see if he can do it though. There's 8 laps to go in this Grand Prix, and if Speedbarry gets a penalty, things completely go right out of balance, and you know, there's still so many variables that can contribute to changing the order of this Grand Prix, and we'll find out in the next 8 laps.
And of course we have to remember Simon currently with a 6.8 second gap up to Infamous. He might be able to salvage something, but it's not looking likely. But it is shaping up for quite a bit if Pressure can get himself within DRS range of Speedbarry. Then we might see a battle for the lead and the win of this Grand Prix. And of course, if Cardinov can make his way past Alvaro, then it'll be a right scrap up there. But let's not hope for too much. We all know the commentator's curse is in full effect, and it has shown itself this season. But if Pressure can get his foot down and catch just 4/10 of a second up, then we might be able to see a scrap come the end.
But if they do scrap, that runs the risk of, well, the top 4 just getting into a complete scrap, which will be music to Simon's ears, because he's now got clean air and can now just try and catch up. But I mean, 6 seconds is a lot to gain. And then there's the task of overtaking, and at the end of the Grand Prix where his tyres will start to fade, yes, they'll be in much better condition than the drivers in front, but they still won't be in tremendous condition in 6 laps time. 15 laps on mediums isn't that great, as Brownie is next to pick up the penalty. He's obviously one of the drivers started on the mediums and now running on the softs. He's battling away with Mr. Anker in the battle for P8 and P9 in today's Grand Prix. But at the front, it just looks tantalisingly close to Presnader, but if he can't get within that DRS range, then there's no hope of him getting close to the speed bar. He has to hope for a mistake, or any sort of mistake really could potentially put him into DRS range. But it looks like he's got his teammate covered off for now, and his teammate looks like he's got Cardinov covered. Infamous is there or thereabouts. Unfortunately for him, if he didn't get that wing damage, he could be potentially where Presnader sees himself. But it wasn't to be. But he's definitely not out of the running just yet. But just can't seem to gain enough to get within that DRS range on Cardinov. So as we're at the front with 6 laps to go, on that lap Simon gained around a second. If he does that for the next 5 laps, he won't even get 5th. So that dream of a 2-stop strategy working for Simon, after every lap, just the hopes just fade and fade and fade, and eventually they will be no more, as he still plows on in P6. But yeah, I think it's fair to say this 2-stop strategy didn't work for the German driver, and the best we'll get in today's Grand Prix, barring penalties, will be a P6. That's not what he wanted, especially after leading this Grand Prix for the majority of the first stint and the second stint. But you live and you learn as a racing driver, and hopefully he'll rectify his mistakes in the next Grand Prix, which obviously will be next week at China, I'm pretty sure it is. So obviously we don't often see Shanghai this late into the calendars. That'll be an exciting Grand Prix to see. Very different to this circuit. But one thing they do share in common is that the tyre wear is dreadful. So hopefully, with Simon's case, he'll learn that error and, as I said, rectify it in next week's Grand Prix. But yeah, the main thing we'll focus on is the battle for, or the potential battle for the lead of the Grand Prix as we start lap 24, and Presnader just isn't gaining enough. He can't get close to that DRS range. It's not like he's 1.1, 1.2 seconds behind. He's constantly 1.5 seconds behind, and you know, with very little ARS, can't see to push as much as he wants. Because at the same time, he wants to push, he needs to be conservative to not get any penalties. Because if he does, bye second place.
And looking at Cardinov in 4th, if he knows about Alvaro's penalty situation, there would be no reason for him to go for any overtakes unless he gets right in close to him. If Alvaro falls out of the DRS range of Presnader. So it's the question, if Cardinov knows, there would be no point for him to go for any overtakes on Alvaro, and that would mean that Infamous further back wouldn't really get any chance of catching up. But as it looks right now, they will gain a position up since the penalty situation with Alvaro, of course. But looking at Presnader, he's constantly going up and down. He's gone down to that 1.3, 1.4, but it's just not close enough. He needs to at least catch actually more than a tenth a lap if he just wants to get within DRS range in the final lap. And then on the final lap he would have to get close enough to go for any overtakes. So it's not looking likely, unfortunately. So Speed Bari, after being maybe held at the start with a start light bug, it looks like he has been able to fight it back and is currently in 1st place. It's not looking like Presnader will be able to fight everything back.
Still 4 laps to go though, so anything can still happen, but the top 5 just have shown tremendous pace. Although saying that, Cardinov I think might have had an attempt to get past Alvaro, because Alvaro now sees himself equidistant between himself and his teammate and Presneda and Speed Bari. So I wonder if Cardinov tried for a move, didn't work, and obviously now still behind Alvaro. That brings Infamous into the play. Infamous, despite the fact he's got the most tyres, as Alvaro's got another penalty.
12 seconds.
So I think Simon's guaranteed P5 at least, and maybe even Brownie could snatch a P6. That would be a tremendous result for the lone Renault driver in today's Grand Prix. Never mind. Forget that I said that. Still, he's shown, to be fair to him, regardless of penalties, the top runner on the softs. You know, fair play. He's been one of the most impressive drivers in today's Grand Prix, and fully deserves a P7 if penalties hadn't been applied. But yeah, Alvaro obviously just picking up way too many penalties. Unfortunately, on another day, he might have got away with certain warnings and whatnot, but clearly not. But it looks like Infamous is gearing up for a move on Cardinov. Cardinov defends the inside line. In saying that, I thought he might have tried to dive down the inside of Alvaro, but not to be. Infamous tries to hang around the outside, trying to make a move. As I said, he wasn't pushing a lot compared to the racing point. Oh dear! Wow,
just diming it there.
That was completely ambitious, but he made it work. That was the move of the Grand Prix there from Infamous, and fair play. They both kept it clean as a whistle. And Infamous looks good for a P3, another podium for him. As I was saying before, I thought Hypers was the driver who had the most points that are attending this race, bar Speed Bari. No, it's Infamous. Infamous has such consistently good races, and now it looks he's going to add to his podium collection by taking P3.
And looking at that gap with Presneda, he is close to the second. Will he get it? Oh god, you've been kicked. But now looking, I believe he's within that second. Oh, it's close. Did he or did he not get it? Let's see as they come onto the straight. 2 laps to go. He did not get it this time round. It is going to be tight. It is going to be real tight if we're going to be able to see a fight for the lead of this Grand Prix. Further back between Infamous and Cardinov. Cardinov will maybe try and fight back, but let's just remain with the battle for first. Further down, we've seen a couple of drivers pit late in the Grand Prix, just showing that the tyre wear really just is horrible at this track, and our prophecy of the penalties of the easy to cut corners and just extend a bit, especially at turn 19, has come true with a plentiful amount of penalties. But looking now, Presneda, 1.1 seconds. I think he's fallen a bit further back than last lap, with now a 1.134, then jumping down a bit on the final lap of the Grand Prix. It is going to be so close as they're coming now, finishing off the first sector there. Presneda just within that second. Having the DRS now, of course, Speed Bari does not have any DRS. There's no drivers in front of him that are lappable. So Presneda will get the DRS, Speed Bari won't. Let's look at the ERS. Speed Bari has a bit more, but he's also down on fuel. That's something Presneda is not. Presneda can use his fuel, but he can't use a lot of his ERS. Now, 0.8 of a second. I don't think we're going to be seeing a move here. No, we're not. Through sector 3, 0.7 of a second. Will it go down to the final corner? 6.5 tenths there. Coming up to the triple right-hander. Presneda falling a bit further back now. Oi, oi, oi. a full race where he's just been trying and trying and trying to catch up on the final lap. I don't think he's close enough. Coming through turn 19 up to turn 20, he gets the DRS through the final corner, but they will cross the line, and Speedbari will take the win after being held at the start and fighting valiantly through the whole Grand Prix. And Simon, after trying to make that two-stopper work, jumps up to 4th place. After leading the Grand Prix at one point, he's only fallen 2 positions from where he started. Then Cardinov 3rd, Simon 4th, as I just mentioned, Infamous 5th, Leopard 6th, Alvaro with all the penalties into 7th, Failer, he finishes in 8th, Brownie 9th, Camille rounds off the top 10, then Sones, Matthias, Anka, and Donator, Photon down in 15th, coming through the right hander now, and then a Hypers 2 laps down after having a plentiful of connection issues, first through qualifying and then early on in the race, getting kicked from the session, not able to rejoin. So what was looking for a battle for some points in the championship and able to catch up to the leaders means that he will fall further behind. But Cardinov there picking up his pole position, taking 3rd place there after the penalties of Alvaro. So well done to him, and well done to Speedbari for fighting back after this unfortunate start.
The good news for Speedbari, after checking the standings, the potential bad news for us is that he's at least 40 points clear in the championship. I mean, fair dues, fantastic race from him, but you know, as commentators, we want the title to go right down to the wire, and we do not want to see a repeat of Jarno dominating. But you know, at the end of the day, Speedbari fully deserved that win. He had to fight for it. He had technical issues at the start, which I'm assuming he did. I don't think he was just sleeping on the start. A driver of said caliber should not do that. If you do, like, what on earth are you doing? But yeah, I think he'll be, well, Speedbari will probably be the most happy after that Grand Prix. The most disappointed has to be Simon after that. To be fair to him,
has to be Simon. I'm sorry.
Quarantine's affecting us too much, guys.
I'm sorry.
But yeah, in the limelight of things, you know, we tried to make a positive from Simon. Obviously, did get P4 in the end, and was 4/10 behind a P3. But yeah, he made that ambitious call to make that 2-stop. On another day, it might have worked, but in today's Grand Prix, it didn't. But still, 12 points. I don't know. I thought he might have got a fastest lap, but I completely forgot that drivers we finished way down the order, pitted for their soft tyres. 4 says fastest lap taken away from the German driver. But yeah, what a Grand Prix it was. Obviously not that much action. We had a few battles, especially at the start. But at the end, it was just, well, it was very tense. Could President have done it? You know, unfortunately he couldn't, but, you know, he gave Speedbari a lot to worry about. And, well, at least he's finally got off the mark officially this season. His best result prior to this was a P6. So I'm sure he'll be glad to get his first podium of the season. But is it too little, too late for a potential championship challenge for President? Because if he had good results elsewhere, he took a podium at Silverstone, potentially even the win, he definitely would be much further up the championship order. But as it is, he will have around about 40 odd points, for Speedbari will have the upper echelons around over 100. So as we end the first half of this tremendous season, Speedbari has the upper hand, hopefully, for the championship's sake. Crow, Bono and Michael will still have unattended business, or unfinished business, and we can see this championship fight flourish, or we'll see Speedbari take off into the distance Yarno style. Whatever happens, I'm sure the races will be exciting, and carry on with the ride as we are back next week for yeah, it is China next week, so I'm looking forward to that Grand Prix. But the main talking point, Speedbari is third win of this season.
Yes, indeed. So, after a race with technical issues and a plentiful amount of penalties, and a qualifying that saw us going into the 129s with a fantastic lap time from Speedbari, it is time to end. We will, as mentioned, see you next week for the Chinese Grand Prix at the Shanghai International Circuit, with one of the longest straights on the calendar, if not the longest, which will be sure to give us some exciting racing. But until then, have a good one, take care, stay safe, and goodbye.